is this what year is this for you guys? 13 years ago, we had the first ball game here in Springdale. And I remember going to that game. I was there, and it was just incredible, the amount of people that were there. There was excitement in the air. There was a band at the entrance. It was really incredible. What's really incredible is the backstory of how the Naturals come to Springdale and how the stadium came to be. And it's really a story that's amazing, of an amazing amount of things aligned, like the moon and the stars aligned for that to happen so quickly. And the voters of Springdale were generous enough to help finance that. So I'm very excited about this, very happy to have the team. This time I'd like to introduce the Vice President and General Manager of the Northwest Arkansas Naturals, Justin Cole. Justin?
Well, thank you for having us as always. This is always one of my favorite days of the year because it means the season's getting just a little bit closer. I want to echo earlier, today is a day where we are missing a good friend to our organization and a good friend to all of us in Northwest Arkansas, Mr. David Glass. Devastating to hear his passing, but I do think it is appropriate that we're going to spend the next 20-30 minutes talking baseball because I know he'd love to do that. And I'm really glad to have a couple members of the Kansas City Royals and our new Naturals manager here with us. I did want to introduce them, give a couple of quick updates on our upcoming season, and then kind of let them do more of an introduction of themselves, and then a little bit of question and answer if anybody has any. But I have here with us on the far end there, Alec Zumwalt. He's the Director of Hitting Performance, Player Development for the Kansas City Royals. Alec joined Kansas City as a pro scout in 2011, worked as an advanced scout after a long playing career, so we'll get to interact here with Alec in a little bit. And then I'm very proud to announce our new manager is joining us today, Scott Thorman. He's really glad to have him with us here today in Springdale. Scott's coming up from the Wilmington Blue Rocks franchise that he managed to a Carolina League championship last year. This is his 6th year managing the Royals organization. He's been in the Burlington franchise for a couple of years, Lexington for a couple of years, Wilmington, and now he's coming up to us with the Naturals. He was given the Dick Hauser Award, given to a Royals Outstanding Player Development person in 2018. So again, we're and Scott also had a long playing career in the minor and major league. So very glad to have him here. Looking forward to a great season with Scott at the helm. So again, just wanted to give a couple quick updates on where we're headed at the ballpark in the upcoming season. 87 days until that 13th opening day. It's on Thursday, April 16th. Really just can't wait for it to get here. We're obviously gearing up right now, putting some of the finishing touches, getting some projects started over at the ballpark. Our goal and aim obviously is to be good for this community, be a lot of fun when you come to the games, but also be good stewards to that facility and maintain it and keep it at that level that everybody wants it to be at. So we're working through those processes right now. We are going to have some new field lights next year. Working with this Public Facilities Board, we're going to have some LED field lights, more energy efficient, better for the players, better for our fans. We're also working on a lot of other smaller improvements, but that was a much bigger one that, again, may not be the most exciting, but it's a really good thing for our team in our ballpark. We also recently extended our player development contract with the Kansas City Royals. The farthest you can go right now is through 2022, through forces outside of our control, but we extended that as far out as we could. So we were on a 4-year term. We're going 2 more years. That official announcement will come out a little later today, but we agreed upon that. Not much thought put into that. It's a great affiliation. We would never want to change that as far as I'm concerned. Ever. Great organization, great people. They've given us a lot of great players and great people to work with over the years. We will have 16 fireworks shows this year at the ballpark. We are home on July 4th and 5th, which will be very exciting. And if you've noticed the last couple of years, a lot of theme nights, a lot of fun on the weekends. Star Wars night is coming back on May 1st. We are bringing back the growling chickens for a couple of days in May. Have some fun on that weekend. We're going to be doing a throwback weekend in July. The Naturals obviously weren't around in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but we're working on a retro design as if we were. So we'll have some neat uniforms, caps, and that'll be a fun weekend to be at the ballpark in mid-July. We'll have 5 bobblehead nights. Those I know are very popular. We brought one that you'll have to arm wrestle or argue over that's on each table of a former natural, Danny Duffy. We are participating in it's a minor league initiative. Over 90 minor league markets are involved in the Copa de la Diversión, and I apologize if I did not say that correctly, but it's a very fun initiative. It's the Fun Cup translated. A bunch of markets do a culturally specific rebrand and look to just engage with the community, the Hispanic community, Latin American community, but really just the community in general, and foster those strong ties. So we'll be Los Naturales for a couple days this season. It won't just be over a weekend. There'll be 3 games, but it's really a season-long thing. You know, those 3 days will be a lot of fun. We'll have a special uniform and do some very special things on those days. But it's not just 3 games. It's trying to incorporate that into our full schedule every season as we move forward. And really, the last but not least, there's a lot of excitement around the ballpark. If you haven't been out there, Northwest Arkansas Community College campus has opened up. Obviously, Arkansas Children's is entering, I believe, their 3rd year here in Northwest Arkansas. There's a large medical building being built just to our south, and the ground has been broken, and they're building some, I believe, some apartments near us as well. So it's an exciting time to be out there, and we're really looking forward to another great season. You'll notice I have not talked about the team a whole lot, because we have 2 of the authorities on that sitting up here, and I'm going to leave a little bit of that to them. Any information you need, obviously, you can come see me personally, call our office, nwanaturals.com. Happy to try and help out however we can. And again, we're just really thankful to be here. Appreciate all the support that's in this room. I did not try to recognize guests because there's too many, and I would definitely forget people. But I'm really appreciative of the support this community continues to give us, and we look forward to a great season. So on that note, I did want to kind of transition us into a little bit more of the team-related question and answer. And before we kind of open it up for questions, I did want to just kind of pass the microphone to Scott and Alec and kind of just let them introduce themselves a little bit, and then we can kind of go from there.
Thanks, Justin. First of all, I want to thank the Rotary Club, Justin, your staff, season ticket holders, Kansas City Royal fans. We're very happy to be here. Tell me about yourself. That's a little vague. Pretty boring. I drove by the park today, and I would be, if you told me it was 3 years old, I would believe you. It's a beautiful ballpark, a wonderful town. And when I found out I was coming here, I called my friend Vance Wilson, and I wanted to know a little bit about it because I know he's from the area, managed here a long time. And, you know, he had wonderful things to say, very excited. My family will be here. I'm married to my high school sweetheart. We just celebrated our 15-year anniversary. I have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, 12, 10, and 8. And they're excited to be here and be a part of the community as much as I am. Zoomy, go ahead, bud. We'll get into the question and answer.
So Scott and I have known each other a very long time. We played together in the Atlanta Braves organization, so there's a lot of joking that'll go on between us. And a lot of, it's actually quite ironic in our organization. There's a lot of us that came up together in the minor leagues, whether they're coaching in the office or scouting. We have a lot of people that we played with that are a part of the Kansas City Royals now. But I'm the director of hitting performance and player development. Work alongside Scott Sharp and JJ Piccolo, along with everyone in the front office. Very excited for Scott to be managing here. He's managed to rack up a lot of wins in a short amount of time. He's won at every level, bringing back-to-back championships. And his culture that he brings is going to be something that I think our fans are going to really love to watch. He really gets the most out of his players. He's very, very demanding of respect from his players. They play very hard for him, and I think that's why they won the last 2 years. Is he's been able to really connect with younger players, instill in them what hard work is really all about. And his experience of being a former player, former major leaguer, they respect him. They respect what he says. So I don't think he'll get thrown out as many games as Vance did. And he's actually, you were on your best behavior last year, correct?
Hey, who pays the fines?
Yeah, those crossed my desk. But no, in all honesty, like, Scott has a lot of passion. Obviously, like he was just speaking of his family, we speak about our families a lot. My wife and his wife have also known each other for a long time, because we just celebrated I'm not trying to top you, but we just celebrated our 18th too, so. But yeah, we have very.
Older than me.
Well, I am older than you.
Also, it's Alec's birthday
Yeah,
today.
today is my birthday. But no, I'm excited for the community. This has been, since I went into the front office, moved here from North Carolina, moved to Kansas City from North Carolina. This is always a trip during the season I love to make. Come down here with my kids. It's an easy 3-hour drive from Lee Summit. So really love the ballpark, love the fans. This is one of those places that as a minor league player that got to play in some not so nice ballparks in AA. Very, very happy that our players get to enjoy a nice city and a great ballpark with fans every night. So, but having said that, I just want to make sure that everyone understands that, you know, the Kansas City Royals and Dayton Moore, and now Mike Matheny is our manager. You know, there's a lot that we stand for, and Scott is a great example of what we stand for. Just quality person, quality family man. But we're coming here and we're going to put a team on the field that we're expecting to win, and we're putting that into our players that they need to win on and off the field. And the group of young men that were here last year and some that will be here again this year, I know that they spent a lot of time in the community here, and I feel like we've got a really we've got a good group of guys that have been able to interact with the community off the field. So I think that that's very important, because these guys need to understand that when their playing career's over and they take that jersey off and they have to wear khakis or a collared shirt or whatever, they go to the real world, they have to be able to interact with people in a different way than they did as a ball player. So hopefully we can connect with our fans and, you know, let nothing more than have a Texas League title here, and let Scott continue to pile up his ring collection. So, thank you.
You'll notice Benjamin Kelly isn't here today. He's still our broadcaster. He had a previously scheduled trip, so I'm going to try my best to shepherd us into this. This is not my specialty, so bear with me. I did want to open it up for questions. I have a couple if the room is bashful, but if there are any, feel free to raise your hand, shout it out, let us know who it's for, and we'll get it answered for you.
Scott, first, welcome.
Thank you.
And secondly, tell us a little bit about your transition from player to manager, and then the value of that Dick Hauser Award to yourself.
Well, the transition wasn't easy, to be honest. It took me a couple years in between playing and getting back into coaching. I actually sold real estate for a year plus at home and from outside of Toronto. So I'm just happy to see some sunshine and some grass. I was hoping to be a little warmer, but, well, what are you gonna do? It took some time, and I learned a lot. I started in rookie ball. I went to 3 extended spring trainings, which is, you know, the bottom of the ladder in the sense of coaching and where I was at with my career. I was learning every day, doing everything, scheduling, learning all the positioning, relearning everything I thought I knew as a former player, because there's no real book on coaching for former players. A lot of times they just get a stopwatch or a fungo bat, and you're a coach now. You know, I was very fortunate. I actually came to Northwest Arkansas to follow Vance around in 2014 for 2 weeks. I came here, stayed out of the way, just kind of watched. And the Royals, and I thank them for taking the time with me to allow me to be around different coaches and their styles, how they manage players, how they interact with the players. Being a former player helps sometimes. I don't think it's always the way, but I think it can definitely help. Seeing as I've gone through those struggles, the joys, the pains, the ins, the outs, missing your dog, missing your girlfriend, missing your family, traveling on the buses. I know there's some long trips in this league. Flights sound good though. I guess we could talk about that. It's a progression. You know, you're constantly learning, constantly evolving. Fortunate to be around the coaching staffs, the rovers we have. The background work that goes into these players with the Kansas City Royals, the kind of organization that they are. When we leave here today, we're going to Kansas City to bring all of our first-year players in for an orientation for a week. And we're going to invest in those players and develop our relationships early so we can try and get to them quicker on the field and get them to the big leagues and get them to their seal.
What about that Hauser Award?
That was a surprise. It was a great honor.
I didn't vote for him.
Well, yeah. Jimmy didn't vote for me.
I knew I'd never hear the end of it.
And it was very humbling. At the end of the day, it's all about the players. It's about the players and really good players, and we try as a staff to get the most out of our players and move them along the line. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to keep them going and get them to Kansas City to help win another world championship. Thank you for your question.
I know it varies from year to year, but approximately what percentage of the players make it to the majors that played here?
From Northwest Arkansas?
Well, or just in general, play double-A ball and then make it on.
I would have to call our quantitative analysis department to get you an exact figure. But I can tell you that Double-A is a phone call away from the big leagues. And it's actually one of the first meeting I'm gonna have with the players once we get them here. And I know there's a lot of talk about who's gonna be here, who's coming back. And to answer your question, we don't know. We're excited about a competitive spring training. We're looking forward to getting all the guys together. Obviously, a lot of players are building off some success last year. We're very excited about our pitching staff. Some teams, 2 or 3 guys might make it. Sometimes you look back and there's a dozen plus guys from one team that make it to the big leagues. So, in my heart, if I was guessing, I would say hopefully it would be on the higher end, because we're very, very excited about these players that are going to be coming through here. And I would suggest you get them to sign a baseball while they're here, because you're going to want that autograph.
I had one for Alec. This past season, just being from our perspective, looking at it, a lot of pitching prospects really excelled in Northwest Arkansas and the levels below us. It seemed like some of the hitting prospects was a little bit more of a mixed bag. What are you looking for from that group? Not even necessarily coming here, but what are you looking for out of that group in 2020?
To answer your question, so our hitting has gone through a transition. Part of my role in coming into the hitting department, trying to revamp some things. We have to move forward with the times. I was telling Paul earlier, pitching kids are throwing so hard these days, and the breaking balls they're throwing are better than what Scott and I faced on a regular basis. And we have to up our training to match that. So we had to have a little bit of an overhaul. Definitely some of our players that have not performed to what we had hoped they would. Scott dealt with it last year in Wilmington. We had several of our key players, key position players that we're really relying on to become Kansas City Royals. They struggle for the first time in their life. To Scott's point, what he was saying about understanding what these players go through, when you've been one of the top players in the country since you were 15 years old and you struggle for the first time in pro ball under a microscope, not many people understand what that's like. So helping those players is one of my big goals this year, is to get the trust of these players and what we're really trying to get them to do, which is really just maximize their ability. Learned something recently that we're going to continue to talk about with these players, is not put ceilings on themselves, not put expectations on themselves, but just try to relax and go perform. But that's going to take training, and so we have to really adapt our training methods to catch up with the pitching the way it is. As you saw bits and pieces last year with some of this top pitching prospects that we have coming, other organizations have those guys too. So our young hitters have to learn how to match that high quality pitching that's out there.
I can build off that a little bit too. To go back to your question about how many guys make it, I think there's no one way for everybody. Everybody's going to hit their bumps at different times in their careers. This Double-A jump it's been said, and it was said many, many years ago when we were players, the biggest jump in a young hitter's career is from high A to double A. So they're gonna come here and they might be just deer in the headlights for a little while until they figure it out. But we have every confidence that these young players are gonna do that. So, like every good team, there could be 60, 70 losses in the summer, depending on how it shakes out. I think the team that won the league last year was about 500, give or take, right? So half the time, they were winning, half the time they were losing. So there's gonna be bumps in the road, and we know that. So there's no panic. We understand hitters are gonna struggle at times, pitchers are gonna go through adjustment phases. Our job is to keep them as positive and even-keeled as possible and trust the process. Because we don't focus on the results, we focus on the process. Their attitude, their effort, their concentration on a daily basis. I can't control if Nick Heath can go 4 for 4 every game. But Nick Heath can control if he goes out and competes every at-bat, every pitch. And those are the things we focus on. And if we do that, the results take care of themselves.
Hello, gentlemen. When you look at the crowd, you see an awful lot of diehard baseball fans here. But you might notice there's a whole bunch of diehard baseball fans here with gray hair. And we've watched the game for decades and decades and decades, and we've seen it change. So I think, speaking for those of us with gray hair, the question I'd have for a hitting instructor or a teacher of hitting, is baseball going to come back to teaching players that are facing the shift to bunt in the opposite direction? Is there a philosophy on that? Can you speak to that for a minute?
We're a little sensitive about hair.
Two bald guys would love to have gray hair.
We're a little skipping, we'll skip the hair part.
Great question. Obviously, the shifts in baseball, our quantitative analysis department brings it front and center to us on a daily basis every night during the major league games. And I can assure you, sitting next to Dayton Moore at games, he says the same thing you say a lot. And I've seen him get very frustrated when our own guys don't execute against the shifts. I'll tell a story about Mike Moustakis doing it. Late in the season in 2014, we were facing the White Sox, and that came up. They continued to put the shift on, and Mike was given the advice. Dale Swain told him, just do it once and they'll stop, because he kept hitting in the shift, kept hitting. Just do it once and teams will stop. So he did it once, and it worked. He got on base. We ended up scoring that inning and turned into a rally. We win the game. Well, that all started from that one bunt. Then in the playoffs, we were playing the Anaheim Angels that year, and or Los Angeles Angels. I can't whatever. The California Angels to me. He squared around the show bunt in the playoff game, and Mike Scioscia was not prepared for that. Now, he didn't drop the bunt, but the next time up, they had to play him straight up because they thought that he might drop the bunt. Well, they ended up hitting a home run. So that's what's hard, is that our guys know they can drop the bunt down and get the hit, but they also are a lot of these guys that we want to break that shift from time to time. They can hit the ball at the ballpark. So it's definitely a double-edged sword. As long as Dayton Moore is our manager, our general manager, and now with Mike Matheny as our manager, we're going to continue to play more of a National League style. Kauffman Stadium, if you haven't been, it's a farm. It's so big. Guys hit balls there that go out of almost every ballpark in our division, and they're outs at Kauffman. So bunting is going to always be a part of our game. We like to split our players up, our position players up, into run scorers and run producers. Run scorers are players that have to bunt, and their job is to get on base and create chaos. Nick Heath is a great example here last year. 63 stolen bases? Amazing. Khalil had over 50. Khalil's more of a run producer, but he's got that dynamic. He could be a 5-tool player in major leagues. Because you don't see guys with the raw power he has, the ability to bunt, the ability to run, the ability to play outfield. So I think to answer your question, yes, we do. We spend a lot of time in spring training, and we are constantly on our players that we expect to bunt. But when you have a guy like Jorge Soler in the big leagues and they play him in a shift and he hits 50 home runs, he's getting paid to drive that ball out of the ballpark. So I think it just comes down to one of the things we're preaching with our hitters now is you got to know thyself. So you got to know who you are. If you're a guy that can't hit 50 home runs, then it's not expected of you to drop those bunts. But we like you to have that in your back pocket because you may need to start that rally in a big game late in the season by dropping that bunt down against the shift. So to answer your question, no, we're on that. We really do. You have to adapt, again, you have to adapt to the game. The analytics department has every piece of information, every ground ball that's hit. We can position guys in AA and be very confident with where the player's going to hit the ball just because there's so much data.
I've got a question about last year's last game that's bugged me all year. Both teams used the same bat in the last game of the year. What was that all about?
My guess was both teams had been eliminated from contention, and I don't know if there was a handshake or a wink and a nod, but they were playing pretty quickly. I don't know if they were,
Saving equipment?
yeah, I actually had to PA that game, so I got to see all of it, but I don't know the specific reason. I didn't play the game, so I don't know.
I was in Wilmington and I remember.
Okay, as pictures develop, like, there's a lot of high school pictures that their goal is to eventually make it to the major league, go to the minor league system. The health of their arms make us more Tom John surgeries being done earlier. What is your advice to pitchers as they're producing, as they're growing, as they're developing?
Well, the first thing I would always say to any young player would be to have fun and love what you're doing, because that's the first thing. When you get to these levels, if you don't love it, to be able to do it every day, day in and day out, it's not going to happen. But I think arm care is so important now, and I think the parents need to monitor their child's throwing as well, just because, I mean, it's like mileage on a car. I mean, it could be a 15-year-old arm, but it could have a lot of mileage on that and not taken care of properly. And what I mean is throwing too many pitches too frequently. So I think it's up to the coaches and the parents to monitor and to speak up. And you know, we both have young kids, and Zumi's boys play baseball all the time, and it's a hot topic everywhere because everybody wants to throw, and little Billy's the best pitcher on the team, and we want to win the game, so they want to pitch him Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Well, it's not going to work that way. I mean, you see how we work in professional baseball. A lot of the season ticket holders for many, many years, many of you since 13 years since the team's been here. I mean, we are very, very conscious of their pitch counts. Very conscious. To the point where, yeah, I'd love to use this guy to close the game out, but it's not what's best for the player. So ultimately, we have to focus on what's best for the player first and foremost. So when you're talking at a youth level, I think you have to be hypersensitive to the amount of volume. Does that help answer your question?
Time for probably 2 more questions.
And I did stay at Holiday Inn last night, but
I don't know much about baseball. I can spell it. I spent 2 years with the Astros back in the 80s, and the game was slow, and there was a lot of talk about speeding the game up. And now when I go over to the ballpark and I sit there, and we get somewhere in those 9 innings or whatever the number is, and it's like watching haircuts or watching paint dry. It just goes on and on and on. So what I'd like you to do is go to your qualitative analysis group and find out how we can move, how you all can move that game on just a little bit.
Not really a question.
That was an order.
Would you like
As
to
an
be
order.
here?
just heard one was too fast. That's why we play 142 of them.
Yeah, I like when they're slow, I get more for my ticket price. I have a question for Alex. You talked about training batters for the times and in a time when we hit more home runs, but we also have more strikeouts. Are we trying to teach to hit for power or hit for average, or is that a player by player kind of mentality, or how does that work in the bigs?
This is tough too. I hate strikeouts. I was a player who struck out often, so you did too. We're doing with our training. We are trying to be more cognizant of how these guys attack versus be on the defense. The bottom line is two-strike approach. We worked it for years in our organization. We preached it. We trained it. It's actually, and it's such an overused phrase, I can't stand it. Because to me, if you, with two strikes, you either want to compete right there or you don't.
Yeah.
And, you know, to the gentleman's point, okay, some guys, they have to step out and face their batting gloves and do other things instead of just getting batter's box and compete right there. So we're talking a lot more about being aggressive early in the count, because the greatest two-strike approach is to not get two strikes. So you want to cut strikeouts down, stop getting two strikes. In the major leagues, you get to two strikes, the batting average is 188. So that's average with two strikes. So it's just, to me, that's the bottom line. Again, to hit the point earlier, pitching's so much better now. We got to be more on the attack early in the count, put the ball in play. And like I said, with our speed guys, get on base and create chaos, steal bases, and score runs, win the ball game, and hopefully do it in a timely fashion.
You have time for one more second? Don't know if this is elephant in the room or not, but with the whole Astros, Red Sox, Yankees, buzzer, no buzzer, trash can conversation, do you have any comment on that, or any rumors that were floating around? I mean, we beat the Astros in 2015 and beat them at their own place. I'm not sure if they decided it was desperate times for desperate measures, but any thoughts on that?
So Major League Baseball, the commissioner's office asked us to not say anything. But I was our advanced scout during those years. And all I can say is we beat them. Really, really thankful for that 2015 season. You know, we do things a little differently in our organization, and we utilize scouting and quantitative analysis to help our Major League team prepare for every win, every single night. And that's honestly, Commissioner's office.
I forgot about the muzzle rule there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't do any more questions. We're up against the...
Y'all answer questions after.
Yeah, if anyone wants to come on up. But again, I just want to say thank you again to everybody that's here, that supports us, and also thank Alec and Scott. Again, very glad to have Scott as our manager this year. Really looking forward to the season. Again, opening day, April 16th, and if we can help out in any way, please just come and let us know. Thank you again.
That's a great program, and we wish the Naturals, of course, and the Royals the best of luck in the coming season. One thing I almost forgot, change cups on the table. If you are so inclined, you can throw some change or some money in the cup on the table. It's not going to the quantitative analysis department. It'll be going to our literacy program. So with that, I'd like to thank you for coming today. God bless you. Have a good week. And remember, if you always tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.
That was a good first meeting. Enjoyed it. For me, it's the first. I'm just getting back.
Have a safe drive back, or are you staying tonight to Denville? Yeah. Glad you made it.
Come visit us tomorrow. Glad you came.